Hey everyone, this is DJTM. Going to give you a quick tutorial on how to do a basic mapping. This example is going to be with the Traktor Kontrol F1. And there was a question actually asked on the user forums as how you would quickly map the filter knobs on the F1 to the filter knobs in Traktor, because the F1 by default actually controls filters on the individual sample slots. So here you can see if I move filter knob 1 on my F1, you see over here in the remix deck, that's the filter representation, so back at 0. And then if I move knobs 2 and knobs 3 and 4, you can see that all of those result in some filter values. So it's actually quite easy to map them to the actual main EQ filters in Traktor, and we'll go through and do that for you now. So first step, open your preferences and go to Controller Manager. Now, my F1 in this mode is currently operating in its default, and what I'm going to do is you need to click on the Add In button to map any function. So that your first step, assuming that you've got the actual correct device and the import, this just makes sure that the source of the mapping comes from the right device. So do check these if you're having problems. But to map any function, you first click on the Add In function and then go and search for the functional parameter that you're going to change. So in this case, the filter adjust is the filters in Traktor, which is on the mixer. But if you had a look in the remix deck, you'll notice that those also have slot filter. Just got to find it here. There it is. I went past it. So they've each got a slot filter. So that's different. So at the EQ, we're actually going to, or in the main mixer rather, we're going to change the filter values themselves. So I'll go ahead and click on filter adjust. The second step in any mapping is telling Traktor which button you want to map to that function. So first is press the Learn button. Now, any controller or keyboard you've got connected, when you press a button, it will actually detect that, and I'll go ahead and move the first filter knob in on my F1, and there it is, it's picked it up. If I was to move the filter knob 2, 3 and 4, you can see how that changes each time I move that. So I'm going to move filter knob 1, and you'll also note that whatever the last control is what it picks up. So if you're having a problem with trying to do a shift and a knob change or a button change, you actually need a modifier for that, and I'll do that in a different tutorial. So once you've finished, you've found the button you want to use, turn Learn off. That's important because otherwise it keeps looking for button presses. And here's a couple of tricks. The type of controller is of course a fader, it's detected that. Or rather a knob, and the interaction mode could either be direct or relative. Direct means whatever you do on the hardware will be exactly what happens in the software. So if the filter knob is at 0, the software is at 0. If it's at minus 50%, the software is at minus 50%. Relative mode will move, and there's some configurable parameters here, but it moves relative to the position that you started from. And this can be important or worth understanding if you've got a knob mapped to multiple functions, especially with shift modifiers, so that if the knob was in the minus 50% position on the last function, if you now move it 10 points, it increases the software value by 10. So it doesn't exactly follow what's happening on the hardware. So again, that's a bit more complicated. So for this simple mapping, we'll just go direct. And here's an important trap for young players, and I had a lot of issues with my early mappings here. The device target is supposed to use the focus deck, the deck that you're currently working with, but particularly with my S4, I've had trouble with that. So my trick is always to forcibly assign the deck. And in this case, I'm going to assign the first filter knob to deck A. The last thing here is the override factory map. And what this does is tell Traktor if there is already, for example in the F1's case, the filter knobs already do something else, you want to make sure that that gets overridden. Otherwise both functions, both the factory and the new mapping, will occur together. So let me show you. We'll untick the override button. And now if I move filter knob 1, we should see in the remix deck that the filter on the remix slot changes, but you'll now also see that the main filter knob is changing as I move that knob up and down. So yes, we've got our filter working, but now we still have a problem at the remix deck, and that might cause unexpected results. So all you need to do, click on that mapping again, and just enable the override factory map. And now if I close that and move filter knob 1, fortunately, correctly works. Now the only thing that moves is the main EQ filter, the main mixer filter, but nothing happens down here in the remix deck. So that's perfect. Now, unfortunately, if I still move the knobs, the filter knobs 2, 3, and 4, they still change the remix deck. So we want to go and map those as well. It's very easy to copy mappings, and that's what this duplicate button does. And it's a pretty quick process. Click on the mapping that you just created, and you click duplicate. Now it doesn't have a button mapping, so you need to do that each time. So your second step is press learn, turn the knob and press learn again. Check that your parameters are as you want and force the assignment to deck B. Now repeat that, duplicate, learn, turn knob 3, press learn again and force that to deck C. And once more, we'll do the duplicate, learn, turn number 4, unpress, and now assign that to deck D. So that's really, really quick to duplicate functions like this. And now, if I turn the filter knob 1, that still works, but not filter knob 2. There it is there. Sorry, I was moving the wrong hardware. Filter knob 2 now turns deck B's filter. Knob 3 turns deck C, and knob 4 turns deck D. And there's nothing happening in the remix decks here, so no problems in the way that mapping's done. So that's a quick example of how to make a mapping of the filters on the Kontrol F1, but this example is great for a very basic mapping on any controller to a function of Traktor. All right, everyone, and hit me up on the Native Instruments forums or at djtmhire.com.